It is 6:30. I'll call this meeting of the St. Mary's City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Fitzgerald.
Here.
Gyllenhaal.
Here.
Aquero.
Here.
Buck.
Here.
Schmiel.
Here.
Chrisman.
Here.
Willoughby.
Here. All rise. Please join Pastor Mouse in a brief prayer.
Let's pray together. Well, Lord, on the brink of this next week, we all need to take a deep breath of your peace and your assurance that you're in control. God, you see the frustrations sometimes and the confusion, and the promise is that when we lift our voices and our thoughts to you, you give us the peace that we need. Philippians reminds us to not be anxious about anything, but in everything, in prayer and supplication, with petition and thanksgiving, present everything to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus. It sometimes seems simple, I know, Lord, but sometimes our voices might seem small, but when we pray, we allow you, God, to start growing our capacity to love each other like we're supposed to. So God, right now, calm our hearts, give us the peace that we need. And for my brothers and sisters with this city council, remember that they are being lifted up in prayer, protection for our city, but also protection for them and their families. And for them, we are grateful for their commitment to the love of this community and our city. And so, Lord, we give this meeting today to you. We pray for clarity and brevity, but most of all, we pray for your will in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all received a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any questions or comments? If not, may I have a motion to accept? Mr. Buck, Ms. Willoughby, council vote to accept, please. All yeses, thank you. Under petitions and communications, first we have the mayor to present a proclamation from National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Mr. Mayor?
You have the proclamation?
No, sir, I do not.
Nope. I'll read this proclamation. Whereas October 2024 marks the 79th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and whereas National Disability Employment Awareness Month is observed each October to celebrate the contributions of workers with disabilities and to educate the value of a workforce inclusive of their skills and talents, and whereas the history of National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month traces back to 1945, focusing on and to acknowledge the importance of increasing the workforce inclusion of people with physical disabilities. And whereas workplaces welcoming of the talents of all people, including those with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and strong economy. Whereas the City of St. Mary's encourages businesses to continue to take steps throughout the year to recruit, hire, retain, and advance individuals with disabilities and work to pursue the goals of opportunity, full participation, economic self-sufficiency, and independent living. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of St. Mary's recognizes and commemorates the 79th anniversary of National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month, in witness whereof I have hereunto subscribed my name and caused the seal of this office to be affixed this 28th day of October 2004. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, under petitions and communications, it is my understanding that there's 3 different groups wishing to address council. So to help keep it straight in our heads, I'd like to keep it isolated to one topic at a time, if you would, please. So I want to start out, who here wants to just address council on Hotel Fort Barbie? Ma'am, please stand, give your name, where you live.
Hi, I'm Roberta Whitman. I live at Fort Barbie, as you know. First of all, I want to say Fort Barbie is our home, and we have responsible tenants. We've had responsible tenants there. Our main problem is the fact that Fort Barbie has not been taken care of by the owner himself. That was not the tenant's fault. There have been many times where we have reported things that have been wrong with the building that have not been taken care of over the years. We had the last leak we had where the pipes froze in last winter. 3 months prior to that, we had neighbors, that lady being one of them, this lady being one of them, myself, reported to the landlord at the time that there was 2 windows open in the back of the building. They were reported several times. The first excuse was that someone was going in there and opening them up. No, they were not, because they were in the same position every time I went out back and with everybody else. So when we said something again, then the next excuse was that the windows were broken. So my answer to that was board it up. Nothing was done. The windows were left open and the pipes bust, which cost 3 apartments that were totally damaged. Roto-Rooter had to be called in because there was so much damage. And in the end of all this, Roto-Rooter was never paid by the owner. The Kogies did work for the owner that was never paid. This was not the tenant's fault. Responsible tenants were paying their rent. We don't know where the money was going because it wasn't going into the building. And prior to the letters of us being out by October, we had no warning whatsoever. We hadn't seen a landlord in months. I had my rent. I finally ended up putting it back in my account because I made several attempts to call the landlord to tell them I had the rent. Never got any acknowledgement whatsoever. So the money went back into my account. And then when you did reach Fred Schwab, who is the owner, a lot of times on the phone, he made no sense. Of course, we now find out he's in a nursing home because of dementia, which is horrible for anybody. But the thing of it is we have been told to supposedly leave October, which is impossible. I have been out. I was out 3 hours this morning looking for an apartment. I have been out looking since I got the notice. And I'm finding out one of 3 things. Either the apartment is too expensive for my budget because I'm on Social Security. So it's either over what I can pay, or if it's based on your income for senior citizens or anything like that. Right now, every place I've looked is full. There is at least a waiting list of a year. These people and myself, we have nowhere to go. And even if we possibly could go, the elevator has been non-working for 6 months. The elevator was not inspected as it was supposed to be. So it ended up stopping with a child in it. Well, after that got stopped because of a child, the fire department shut it down. So in order to get this elevator working again, it's going to cost at least $1,900 that the owner was never willing to pay, evidently. So there's no elevator to allow these people, myself, to get their things out of Fort Barbie without help. Fred Schwab, the company LLC, has made no attempt to help us. Able has been helping us. But they have made no attempts whatsoever to help us find a place, to help us leave the place like they want us to, which is not even possible without help. So basically what I'm saying is that Fort Barbie is our home. There are responsible tenants. We do want to stay. I would go back to paying my rent. We all would. Paying our rent if the elevators were fixed and the maintenance was done to where we could be livable again. Because that is my home. So we appreciate you listening to us. We're trying to do what we can do. So thank you for listening. Anybody else?
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Okay, please, just stand, give your name.
Excuse me. My name's John Calhoun. I've lived over here since the middle of summer. I actually built that building over here next door to you guys right now. I worked for Total Masonry. And I worked on that construction job there on the brick job for 6 months. Since then, I still live there. You know, and it is what it is. It does need repairs. She's telling you the truth. I work at Crown now. I'm doing excellent. You know, and it's because of the opportunities I have to come to St. Mary's again. I was born here. I'm a veteran. So yeah. But she was saying that it's a tendency to actually work and do something. I do. I'm real. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me add, when John moved into his apartment, he moved into an apartment that was already, that needed repairs.
Yeah, they never did.
He was promised those repairs would be done.
I got a window out. It's been out for 6 months, guys.
This man has had no heat.
Right where the sign is, look at the sign, you'll see a window out.
He's
Been
had
out
no
for
air
6 months.
conditioning.
I got no heat, air. You know, it is what it is. I don't
They
know.
never did what they promised him they
I don't know
would
if you
do.
guys got somebody in mind to put management, or I don't know what you guys plan to do with the building. You guys want us out, or you guys gonna try to help people stay? I'm a productive citizen. I've been there since the middle of the summer. I was born here in St. Mary's. And I go to work, and I'm productive, so.
The building is 100 years old. It's
I can't speak for
historical.
everybody, but I can speak for myself.
The building's 100 years old and it's historical. And like I said, we're all family. And we want to stay. We want to pay rent. We want to fix the place up. But, like I said, getting out, we don't even know where to begin to do that.
I can't.
Because there's nothing that's available. No resources for us to do that. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else wishing to address council on Hotel Fort Barbie?
I'm going to tomorrow.
I guess the only thing I want to, I think we've known that there's been issues with the landlord and the ownership of Fort Barbie, and I think we're all very concerned about what's going on there, and we've known that for months, that the city does not own Fort Barbie. And so you were given that by your landlord that owns the building. The extent of the city's involvement with Fort Barbie is that we have a master lease on the storefronts. And so we sublease those to the businesses that are in there. And so
We're renters too.
we're renters too. We've dealt with leaks coming down into the storefronts.
Yes, I know.
And all I can say is that we're trying behind the scenes to do as much as we can to try to support you guys, but it's a bad situation.
Yes, it is. Thank you for,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, anyone else wanting to talk about Hotel Fort Barbie? Okay. Next, I understand we have people wanting to address council on the Foundry. Anyone wishing to address council on the Foundry? Please, stand, give your name, where you live.
I'm Robert Dunlap, and I live on Vine Street. And I have been to the Foundry 2 times about their blowing their sand. They say they're not blowing it, but I asked them, where's the sand coming from? They said it comes from the street, and the trucks that they loads them is blowing it. I said no, because at nighttime I could see the sand blowing on Vine Street and Beach Street, and it's getting all over the neighbors' cars. It's going to ruin their cars. And I have addressed him 2 times. The first time I addressed him, he gave me $10 and told me to go wash my car. I said, yeah, but that's not going to help. And last Friday I went down and complained about it, and he says, well, I'll look into it. Now today he called me. He said, well, I'm gonna have your car buffed and my son's car buffed. I said, yeah, but how about the other people? I said, it's ruining the cars, because I can feel the sand on the vehicles. And her mother's car is ruined. It's eating the paint off of her car.
I have pictures.
And she has pictures of it. But if they're not, they got to be guilty, because they promised to buff my car and my son's car up. So how about the other people? That's not. I mean, they should be. Somebody should be calling the EPA on them. I think the city should, call the EPA and have them to come in there. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Show your pictures to the council.
Show 'em the picture. She
Did you
has
say
pic-
you had pictures?
Yes. I got a couple of them. You can see right there. Right there, where it's eating it off.
It's eating the clear coat off my car.
Is it okay if we pass this?
Yeah,
around?
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. She has a few of them there.
This situation's been going on for a long time, am I correct on this?
Yes, it has.
It has, Robert.
1970s.
It's ruining even some of the siding. Like if you have, I have aluminum siding on my house, and you can actually feel the foundry dirt embedded in my siding. It's,
Yeah, come to my house, Robin. You can see my car, and you can see where it's coming in on the, what do you call it, downspouting? And it's, I
it's
don't know,
embedded
it's
in our
like I'm in a
windshield.
direct line of fire for some reason.
That's truck too.
And they say they're not blowing their sand out, but you sit there at nighttime, you can see the sand in the air, and they say they're not blowing the sand out.
It's bright red.
They have to be guilty if they promise to buff my car and my son's car out. But I said, how about the other neighbors? I said, all of them's,
Check yours, Robin.
not only mine, it's Vine Street, Beach Street, all down in there.
Pear Street,
It's
Pear
ruining the sand, the cars, because I could feel sand in my vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah, I live next, my name is Bill Howell. I live next door to Edward. He's telling the truth, because my car is a 2012. It's a real nice Jeep. And every week I gotta go out and wash it and clean it. and get the sand stuff off from it. If I got it, I know there's other neighbors around there that has to have it. And I just don't want my car to get worn. I'm 74 years old. It's hard for me to buy another one, so
Okay.
that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wanting to talk about Foundry?
Mr. Harris, it's my understanding that the leadership of the Foundry is aware of the situation and they're working on it.
Okay.
They're working on it?
That's what I'm told.
Yes, he called me today. He said, well, because I done talked to him 2 times, and he told me, he said, you gotta call somebody about bumping the cars out. And I said, yeah, but I said, what's that gonna help if you guys keep blowing the sand? They're blowing the sand because I can see it at nighttime.
Okay.
I can follow up tomorrow with Foundry.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, next topic I heard is the church. Ms. Godwin, are you wishing to address
Ms.
council?
Goodwin.
Goodwin?
Thank you. I am Di Goodwin. There's been a recent real estate transaction in St. Mary's, Ohio that's been brought to my attention by people wondering who the owner was, who the owner is, and what their plans are to do with the church. And with owner of public record, which was indicated, there seems to be an entity that has done several church acquisitions in neighboring communities. Just wondering if anybody knows anything about this and what's going on and what their intent would be for that. It was brought on my plate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wang?
Well, is there an answer to her question before I start mine? Does
Not
anybody,
at this time.
does anybody know what's going on out there? Okay, yeah, I called, talked to my councilman, Dr. Dan. Evidently, there's a church, or they call it a church, in Maui, Hawaii, that is transferring several properties in our area into their names, and they seem to be focusing on churches. They have 4 churches in Salina right now, and they all use a similar name, such as the FAOC Marshallese Ministry, the Ohio Marshallese Victory Church, the Speedy Light Marshallese Full Gospel Church, and most recently, I think the one in Hawaii is called the King's Cathedral and Chapels Church out of Maui, Hawaii. Every one of these have transferred with the seller's address being the same address in Maui, Hawaii. And what they have used these churches for in Salina, in each one of them, is to house Marshallese that are coming to this country. They're all working at several of the industries in this company, or in this country, in Salina, in St. Henry, Coldwater, surrounding areas. St. Mary's has some. And we all know of the problems that they're experiencing in Springfield, Ohio, and in Lima. They're actually taking homes in Lima that are $500,000 homes in really nice neighborhoods and renting them out to, say, 40 people. They have cots lined up in their 2-car garages, ruining the neighborhood. Extension cords run all over the house, multiple people living in them. In the meantime, these people are all getting free benefits from the government, plus they're getting rents of about $1,000 per person to the landlord per person that's living in the house, which in the meantime is causing shortages of rental properties in the area. Like this lady just talked about, there is nothing to rent in St. Mary's right now.
No,
And
there's
what-
not.
And what is to rent starts at $1,000 a month and up. We can't afford to have this kind of influx into St. Mary's for our housing market. And in the meantime, your housing prices are going to fall as these people move into the communities and destroy You know, if you have 50 people living in the house next door, you got bed bugs, you got diseases, you got people can't even speak English. You got schools that have to have special classrooms because the kids don't speak English, so now we have to hire more teachers. It's the same thing as happening in Springfield and with the Haitians. And in Springfield, I have a relative that works as a nurse in Springfield. You can't even have babies delivered normally by these patients that are coming in from Haitians, from Haiti, because of the AIDS within their communities, which is stopping all the women in Springfield of wanting to go there to have their babies. The emergency rooms are getting crowded. Lima's having the same problem. Coldwater's having the same problem. Salina's really got it bad. And I understand from what I'm hearing today that the people in Salina, the Marshallese, are leaving because the Haitians are being bussed in now. And the Haitians don't have as great a reputation as what you'd want in your community because of the crime. I talked to my daughter in Ashtabula today, and she said they've been there for several months now. She said the women don't even go to the grocery store anymore because they're afraid to go. It's not safe. They have their groceries delivered to their homes. Now, I don't want to see this in St. Mary's. And I'm willing to speak up and say, I don't want it here. And if we wait like Springfield did, like Lima has, like Portland, Indiana has, like Salina and Coldwater, it's too late once it's here. Because now it's discrimination. And it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with discrimination. It has everything to do with safety and crime in your housing market for the people of your families that want to stay here have no place to go. So I understand that, Mr. Farrell, you did you close this transaction on the church on Hills?
Our office handled the escrow.
Were you aware of what their intentions were?
I was aware that a church from Hawaii bought a piece of property.
You didn't, it didn't ring a bell to you that this is going on in Salina?
I had no idea that it had anything to do with Salina.
So that name didn't ring a bell to you at all?
King's Cathedral was the name, and it was a church in Hawaii.
Do you know if the owners knew who they were selling to?
I don't know.
Years ago, when I was a councilwoman, the administration came to council and they said, we don't have enough properties in St. Mary's zoned multifamily. And they wanted to balance that out a little better between the residential one and the multifamily zoning. So we went, and I said at the time, I said, why don't we just wait until someone wants one of those properties, and then it can always be zoned for multifamily if it fits in with the character of the neighborhood. And they said, no, we want to do it now and get it done. So if somebody comes in, we've got the property to sell them, that we can build an apartment building if we needed. At the time we needed rentals. Well, now we have a lot of multifamily zoned property sitting. And I don't think it's a good idea if we want to get ahead of what we're looking at here that other cities are facing. I think council needs to look at rezoning several of our properties that are not being used for multifamily back to residential one. So we have some control of what goes and comes into our city. Also, we need to put a restriction on, excuse me, what multifamily is. Is there a restriction right now on, say, square footage per person that's living in an area?
I don't think so, Judy, but I can look into it unless you know, Zach.
No.
Other than plat restrictions?
There's plat restrictions, but I don't think zoning restricts person per, there's minimum square footage.
Can there be?
Can look into it.
If it's a possibility, that would be a really good, I think, suggestion to council or your zoning board to look into that before we get into that situation, because now this property on Holly Street, which was the Hillsdale Baptist Church, is now going to be, I think, used for housing either Haitians or the Marshallese. And I don't care where they come from. What I care about is the number of people in a small space with extension cords running all over the place, and that is a big building. We're looking at hundreds. And the Marshall Islands has 50,000 people right now. With their saying themselves, they're saying that half of them want to leave the country. And they can come here without visas. And they can get Medicare, funds, whatever they need at our expense. We can't afford a housing drop, a housing shortage, extra taxes, extra classrooms, extra teachers, all at our expense. We have got to limit this, and we have got to get ahead of it instead of waiting until all these other cities have, until they've got a real problem, and then saying, oh, there's nothing we can do now. We need to do it now.
Has any of the businesses helped?
Oh, the businesses are bringing them in.
Yeah.
Cooper Foods is a major employer. Ditech, the old Minster machine. Basic Grains, Basic Grains is another big employer. There's a couple in St. Mary's that are employing them. I know that for what concerns me is that Springfield, as of just this last week, is bringing in 3 buses a day to Cooper Foods. A day. Every day. And they work so long until sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. They get fired because they don't come. They get so many points off, and then they lose their jobs. They're off 6 months. We get to pay for that. They come back in 6 months, and they're rehired immediately. And it's just a circle. So now the Haitians are being brought in from Springfield because they're running short at Cooper Foods. So they're bringing in the 3 buses a day, and I understand that they're very aggressive people. And they fired 17 in the last week because of behavior violations. There was a young girl murdered in Coldwater just a few years ago by a Marshallese. I, for one, am willing to stand up and say, I'm not going to have this here, okay? And if you people can't do the job, we will, because we're not going to have it. We want our streets safe. We want women to be able to go to the grocery store, our children to walk to the park. That church on Holly Street is within 1 block of our largest city park our little children play in. I'm concerned. So, what can be done? I have a lot of information here. I've talked to the Salina auditor. I've talked to several officers in Coldwater, administration people. I'm hearing the same thing from everybody. Once they're here, you can't do anything.
To start with, we can look at the zoning changes, right? We can look how things are zoned and put some buffers up and protect ourselves that way.
Can you call some special meetings and get this done without having a study done and surveys and all this other
Well, I would
stuff?
say as soon as possible. We can do that with committee meetings or the zoning board. Mayor, have you heard anything from the Salina mayor on this? I've known Judy for 48 years, and she's a friend of mine. So I know she's not making any of this up.
Well, I've known Judy for a
But
long time.
the mayor, has the mayor of Salina said anything to
This
you?
afternoon. And he
Before
said-
this?
Huh?
Before this? Before today?
No, just today, just today. When I got wind that
about the Marshallese and you were coming. I wanted to know what Salina was doing. They currently have 1,500 to 1,800 residents of Marshallese in their community, and about 4,000 in Mercer County. And he basically indicated to me, and he didn't say anything about the other 4 churches in Salina. He only mentioned the one that was on Main Street. That's the only one that he mentioned to me. He didn't say.
They're hard to track because I had the same problem. I tried to find them too, and I just heard about this like 2 days ago, so I've been like, trying to get my information together and
Saturday was the
verified.
first time I heard it.
And when you try and look it up through the auditor's office in Salina, they don't show up because they're churches and they're tax exempt, no tax card.
Right. And he did indicate to me that one of the things that you kind of look for is that they're noted for buying a home and 15 families coming in. But I will assure you that those 3 properties out there, or 4 properties that are out there behind, are all zone residential, single family.
Which one?
The church and the 3 other properties.
Not that I was told. I was told they're multifamily because they're right next to Kessler's apartments. That's all multifamily, that whole block, including the church.
Well, I thought churches and schools was R1.
No, I think churches can be in any zoning.
It's my understanding from the engineering department this morning that it's R1, it's single family.
But we'll look into it for sure.
Everything I've seen is R1 in those 4 lots.
I hope you're right.
And there was discussion even about when the sellers were going to sell them, could they be turned into multifamily if somebody wanted to? And the discussion at that time was that these are R1 and it'll have to be it'll have to be rezoned.
Well, then I'm glad we're bringing this to your attention, because if that comes before a zoning meeting, I would be certainly want to know about it. That should never be rezoned multifamily.
It's also baffling that I've been a Salina Standard and I basically like the paper. They lean a little left and I disagree with that.
Yeah, a little.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But I have never seen a single story, unless I missed it, about any concerns or police reports regarding the Marshallese. And
Well,
are they not doing their due diligence? I'm not picking on the
I
Standard,
talked
but
to the police department
it
today.
just doesn't seem to be fair to the public.
I called the police department today. I wanted to talk to the chief, he called me back, and we played phone tag for a while. I got his assistant, who happened to has attended all the municipal court hearings. And he said that they do have a problem with, and I've heard this from multiple sources, with people driving over there. They don't have driver's license, most of them, and they have never taken a driver's training course whatsoever. They don't know what stoplights are or stop signs or turn signals or anything. They get in their car and go, okay? And if you're driving in Salina lately, you know what I'm talking about. There are people just blow the stoplight right in front of you all the time. They have no car insurance whatsoever. To get your car worked on over in that area, and that's clear to St. Henry, it's a 3-month wait. And if you park in, go to Salina, go to Walmart, park in the parking lot, and look at how many cars have bashed in back ends and sides. There's a lot of them. My car insurance just went up because of my zip code. Like doubled. They have no car insurance.
Okay, Judy, I would say you've got 2 to 3 day head start on this and getting involved in this problem.
It's not easy, I'm telling you, because they change names, like for instance, the place in Hawaii, let me get my glasses so I can see what I'm talking about here. Usually their names start with Kings. It's a King's Cathedral and Chapels is the name of the church in Hawaii. That's who's transferring these properties to the buyers here. This one was purchased actually in June of 2024 by Tracy and Melissa Properties Incorporated. Do you represent Tracy Louth very often?
No, it was purchased through a sheriff's sale.
Okay, but you represented her when she sold it just now, right? It closed at your office?
She was represented by a realtor. I handled the escrow.
You did the deed?
I did the deed.
So you represented the seller, doing the deed?
Yeah, correct.
Was the closing at your office?
Yes.
Okay, so you did the closing? And
Yeah,
you-
we did the whole escrow.
So you represented the seller there also?
We represented, yeah, we represented the seller during the closing.
Okay. So when you represent the city, Zach, just for future reference, can you represent the city in this situation, say with the seller transferring properties to one of those entities? Or the buyer
What are you talking about?
at the same time? Say, if you're advising the city, say the zoning board, the counselors, as to how they should handle something that comes up that has something to do with this situation, can you advise them, since you're also representing these buyers and sellers and closings on the properties they're
If there's no
buying?
conflict with the city, if there's no competing interest, then I can represent.
There wouldn't be a competing interest with them paying you to represent them and the seller paying you to represent them?
Doing a closing, I mean, we've done thousands of closings this year all across the city. And you're a former realtor, so
Yeah.
you understand that. So there's very little representation other than completing a deed settlement statement, that sort of thing. It doesn't involve anything that has to do with the city.
Say you know that a property's just like this one, if the property's going to be transferred to someone that wants to bring in 100 immigrants into the area to rent one small building, and you know that, would you give that information to council?
I wouldn't be involved in that closing if I thought that there was a conflict between
Well,
the
that's what
closing.
I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't be involved with that.
But you say this time you didn't know about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't know these properties, 4 of them in Salina, were all owned by these people out of Maui, Hawaii?
Judy, I think I've answered your question enough
really,
times.
I want to know the answer to that one.
I knew there's properties in Salina under the name of King's Cathedral.
That's the owner's, that's the name the property in Salina's in, or that's the one,
The one in St. Mary's is King's Cathedral.
the one in St. Mary's is called, yes.
Yeah, that's the only buyer that I have known about. And I came home that night and told my wife, you'll never guess, for some reason there's a Hawaiian church buying a church in St. Mary's.
Yeah.
And this was the same time that we had the large church moving into the school from Columbus. And I said, it's amazing, we've got 2 large churches coming into the town at the same time.
Ding,
So,
ding. Diana
Okay.
picked it up. I
Yes.
picked it up.
Okay.
You didn't? I'm just saying.
Okay. Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
You wish to say anything?
Yes, Judy's pretty much said most of the things that I also wanted to address. The thing that bothers me is in Salina, for instance, there are 2 different businesses that cater to the Marshallese. One's on Fayette, and I'm not for sure exactly where the other one is. There are people who will profit on fusing our infrastructure and our local society and our culture that we have here. And I believe in my heart of hearts that this occurred with Miss Louth and Mr. Farrell. And I would strongly suggest that as the council does any work on this, that you hire some experts to help you. Possibly experts in zoning laws, as well as in the immigration laws that would affect some of the zoning laws. and that this be handled by some other attorney than either Mr. Farrell or his company. Because there is at least the appearance of conflict of interest in this. Whether there actually was any or not is hard to tell. We don't know. I have to take Mr. Farrell's word as being accurate, but something smells about it. And to have a church from Hawaii, which is what, 5,000 miles away, buying property here in St. Mary's, especially a church that is in a state of disrepair, as I understand, and is somewhat dilapidated, would cause me to wonder what's going on. Apparently that didn't enter Mr. Farrell's mind while he was handling the deed process. So that would be my recommendation. I think that this needs to be handled as soon as it is physically possible to handle, and that we secure whatever we can to prevent the kind of things that have gone on in Salina, in Lima, a little bit in Wapak, as I understand, Springfield in particular, and other communities throughout the state. Thank you, I appreciate your talking. Now, I also wanted to tell you, I also wanted to say something. Excuse me, please. I'm not done.
I thought you were.
No, I am not. I also have a status of citizens of the freely associated states of the federal state of Micronesia and the Republic of the Marshall Islands that I picked up on the internet today. There's much more information. I'd like to hand this over to the service director so that he can review it, and it might give him a start on where to look for some of the things that we'll need to know about what we can and what we cannot do as far as,
That same thing?
I believe that it
Give
is.
that to Mr. Farrell.
Yeah, I'll give this to Zach.
Thank you.
There you are. There's much more on the internet about this. And the Micronesian people have pretty much carte blanche here. They're not considered immigrants, they're non-immigrants. They do not have citizenship status, but they have all the rights and privileges of citizenship without the right to vote, as I understand.
Yeah, they're protected, as I understand.
That is correct, they are.
Excuse me, Jim.
And that is for good cause. Because,
Bomb the hell out of them.
well, we did, we atomic bombed the hell out of them. And they had to be removed from the Marshall Islands to another island. And the United States then proceeded to pay everything for them. They lived there for free. They got everything for free from the United States. Because of what had happened in the atomic era where we were doing atomic testing, they decided to make their new island a nuclear-free island. After that, the United States wanted to put an atomic submarine base on their island. They refused. The United States pulled the rug out from under them. And it created a great strife among those people and killings and almost to the point where genocide was taking place because of the difference of opinions between the people whether they should go along with United States demands or whether they should remain nuclear free. This is a terrible part of our history. We're the creators of this.